It is now my pleasure to invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Maheshwar Rao, Chief Commissioner, Greater Bengaluru Authority. Mr. Maheshwar Rao is a senior IAS officer and a Harvard graduate and has a broad leadership experience that reflects a deep commitment to Bengaluru's growth and development. He recently assumed the role of Chief Commissioner at the Greater Bengaluru Authority. His distinguished career includes serving as the Chief Commissioner of the erstwhile Bruhat Bengaluru Mahanagar Palike and as Managing Director of the Bangalore Metro Rail Corporation, where he oversaw the expansion of the city's metro network. He has also led the Karnataka State Industrial Investment and Development Corporation. Earlier in his tenure, Mr. Rao served as Deputy Commissioner across several districts, including Mandya, Mangalore, Belagavi, and Hassan. Mr. Rao,
Good morning to all of you. I hate talking as a keynote speaker, so please bear with me if I wander around, etc. So, anyway, welcome and thanks for the invite for this talk on nature-based solutions. The why of it, I think, is everybody knows about, and what should be done, and how we can use nature-based solutions. I think a lot of people have been saying it's something which it's an ongoing conversation, and a lot of people have showed extreme interest. I will just start off with 3-4 points. One, how many of you have been associated or have seen a little bit of the K100 project? Not many? Yeah, quite a few of you. So that is something which in many countries they have thought of close to 15 years back, to see how you can look at a way by which waterways could become something which can be a place for people to not just it's not just a sewage drain as much as it is something which allows you to it's a kind of public space available. So I think Naresh is coming on the next panel, so he will talk a little bit about his pet project, which is the K100. It's around 9 kilometers long. I had an opportunity to just walk along it last couple of weeks back, and the work is phenomenal in terms of the way you can reimagine a stormwater drainage network. I remember in 2009 when I landed up in the BBMP, we tried something similar in Vrishvavati Valley. What we tried at that time was to see if you could control the inlets into a stretch of the lake or the waterway and treat the water so that at least you get decent water flowing on a 1 or 2 kilometer stretch. But I think as long as you do not have your underground drainage network sorted out and you cannot ensure your collection of water, this becomes a little bit of a utopian kind of project, in the sense it's a one-off. It cannot be something which can be demonstrable over a large area. So when you're looking at the K100, of course, we have spent some money. It's around 9 kilometers. We have spent close to around 16 to 17 crores per kilometer. But on a 165 crore project for around 10 kilometers, the way in which it can handle waste and the way it can get citizens engaged into maintaining this lake is something which is a very nice design concept. So I think this, if we can demonstrate and get it open for people over a period of time, I think it will generate a demand for how we are going to handle our stormwater drainage network using nature-based solutions over a longer period. So this is the first point I would like to make. I think this demonstration effect will be something we will also from the GBS side see if we can push everyone to take it forward in other lake systems wherever it is possible. So then we will let us come down to the whole concept of how Bangalore itself is with regard to its drainage systems. Nitya, of course, mentioned that there are a lot of things. I'll come to 2 points which you're talking about. One is with regard to road drainage, and the second is, of course, with regard to the drainage system per se. How many of you have got stuck in silk board? Very few, yes. So this year, around 4 months back, I think we had this horrible, one night where we had around 127 mm of water. The worst affected locations, you won't believe, were in the western part of the city. There was not even a peep about complaints about flooding in those areas. Why? Your whole terrain allows the water to just go without any difficulty onto the western part of the city, and you do not have many cases except maybe one location at Rajarajeshwari Nagar. The peak was 143 mm at that point in that area. 143 mm of rainfall. The city in the western part where the fall is steep does not experience flooding. And it's a fact. Of course, there may be pockets where some small drains are, choked or something, maybe some kind of valley portions, a few here and there. But per se, as a commissioner, I can mention that if it rains in the western part of Bangalore, I am not worried. To be very fair. But if it rains, God forbid, in the Rachanali catchment, or if it rains on the Yelahanka side and it goes via Gedlahalli all the way up to Vartur, Kodi and onwards, or towards the southern side, you find that we have a problem. One, because Bangaloreans use the maximum amount of Twitter, so the noise of a flood, even if it's a small pool, is much higher than you have a urban flood in any part of the country. I will be very, this is something I have noticed. And it's also because we are talking to ourselves. You tweet, you listen to yourself, or it's the people, but it gets reported worldwide. So we have the unfortunate problem of that we got very good users who are very demanding of a service, but the problem is not as large as it is with regard to the amount of noise which so anybody actually think that you should not catch a flight to come to Bangalore because it is flooded. To be very frank, in June, and the way the BBMP has worked, I'll come to that. In June, July, I think, when the heavy rain took place and we had some flooding, we had maybe 2 locations where there was water stagnation for more than 24 hours in some couple of locations, and that is quite a lot because of the way the development took place there, which is a long-standing problem. Some 7 or 8 locations where there was a problem for around, say, 2 hours. Silk Board was for 5 or 4 hours. And the rest of the locations, I don't think, we were able to handle and clear most of the drainage locations in close to about an hour. So that is the time frame within which, but by then, people think that the city has got a flooding problem. So we are lucky because of our geography that Bangalore being in an elevated location, we should not be having too much of flooding itself. But then comes the question, why do we have it? 2 problems. One, like Nitya mentioned, we have a problem that in lot of our drainage lines, the sewage gets mixed. I went for a small walk the other day towards on the national highway just to see what is happening. The city's pace of growth has been such that we have now our UGD lines to catch the sewage has not kept pace. So we are always playing catch up. We still have a shortfall of around 600 mld of sewage treatment required. That means our collection and treatment requires to be improved. And where does it go? Most of the sewage goes into our stormwater drainage network. Either your main lines would be there, or your sewage is just left directly into the drainage lines. So you have a problem too. One, you are not able to capture the sewage or store the water in any form because you are worried that your underground ways by which you can allow water to seep into the ground. You don't want to do that because you're going to have a problem over a period of time. It can contaminate the groundwater levels. So you create a system by which you can take the water away very quickly. We have been pretty successful. Out of around 870 odd kilometers, we have already lined about 730. At least the water moves out. Now we can look at the next phase of how you can slow it down, maybe use nature-based solutions over a period of time, and I think the K100 is a good example. Today, I just finished a visit to the Alsur Lake. Now, what happens in the Alsur Lake is, I think we got 4 inlets, and we now require to ensure that the water is treated not just at the inlet point. We can treat it all the way to the highest point where we can possibly ensure that we can create this kind of a nature-based system. So the idea would be take it in phases, come up with plans for the city corporation to say that if we can demonstrate the K100 to people, there would be an increasing demand across corporations on how we can create the same systems. One of the great things I learned when I'd gone to the K100 Valley project was that the line laid for the UGD was on silt, and when they removed the silt, the UGD line was hanging in air. So you had to actually lower it down, because that is the amount of silt which had been collected at the valley point, somewhere around 2 kilometers or 1.5 kilometers from the Shantinagar inlet point. So you can imagine that sometimes we have to come up with this kind of. It could be somebody smoking a cigarette, hopefully. Anyway, so this is something which we would like to look at, but definitely nature-based solutions in the same by which we can create some kind of guards for this is important. Third point, Silk Board Junction. There are two solutions we were looking at. One is creating an additional drain, because presently at Silk Board Junction the capacity is not enough. The second option is to see why can't we use the Madiwala and other lakes to store water in for some time. So I think the next requirement for us in Bangalore would be to see how we could utilize our lake system. We got 200 lakes. How we can, it's over? How we could, 5 is over or 5 left? Okay. So how we could look at Madiwala Lake and some of the associated lakes around, right from Kempabodhi, the water comes towards Silk Board, could be used to store water, just to hold on to the excess rain, or the peak intensity or peak intensive rainfall which comes, hold it and ensure that the drainage lines, the water can get cleared, because the line up to Bellandur Lake, from where this water goes towards Bellandur, is something which requires to be resolved. Now, one solution, two problems have occurred now. When I went, we had seen it. Silk Board Junction does get flooded. One, if where the K100 joins, I think K900 or something like that, and the water doesn't go into the lake. So the Bellandur Lake also is not a sink of water. The Madiwala Lake is also not holding water enough. So one idea we have got, which is being implemented as part of the blue-green infrastructure network, is to see how we can use the whole lake system as a way by which we can control urban flooding in Bangalore, and that is going to be the whole master plan within which we are going to work. In that, the second point which we want to do is, how can we utilize and make the water in the lakes of such quality that we can then we can store rainwater for some time, and along the way of the drainage line, whether we could use it, and it could be used to, it can be slowed down. The other point we are looking at is, can this become a way by which public spaces are improved, so that we have more access of citizens to the whole lake system, so that tomorrow, the whole lake and drainage system, so that tomorrow there is more ownership. Like you mentioned, if we have ownership and demand for a certain level of services, definitely it's going to become, all of us will end up responding to it in one way or the other. So therefore, the two issues come up now. One, urban roads also, we have problems. I think everyone has, hopefully all of you have tweeted about at least a pothole in the city. Most of the problems are caused because of bad drainage. The Jana Graha model, or the tender sure model, which I think some of you had also given the concept. This whole pipe and chamber system is quite effective. We are implementing it in the second phase of the project all across the city, close to 160 kilometers. We are going to be taking up in this way. We have created a lot of inconvenience for the citizens, but definitely I will tell you that it is worth it, because after some time we have two things which we are going to come out with these two roads. One, footpaths are wide enough for people to walk, footpaths are accessible for people, and we are able to ensure that we are creating a good walkable city in many locations. Some marquee projects are there, some like in Hennur we are doing one marquee project where the whole area along the border in the lake has been improved. Some we are trying to see if you could improve the area around the Bellandur Lake. But my thought and I'll come last to 2 points with regard to GBA, is that if we can get all the local bodies to look at lakes as a means by which you can control urban flooding, a lot of things a lot of good stuff keeps happening along the way. The second point is a problem of funding. This is going to be key. As of now, we got a 2,000 crore loan from the World Bank, on the basis of which we will be taking up some of these projects. And of course, something like an NBS-based kind of project is also one more thing which we will focus on. Along with improving and retraining the nalas and everything, which will be the primary focus. But over a period of time, we'll have to create sufficient capacity both in UGD line. I think 1,500 crores is going only for the developing the UGD lines in new areas. And with the addition of 110 villages in 2006, the UGD line, the frantic pace of growth of Bangalore, the UGD network has to be a key in the way we collect this water. And we hope that in future, if we are able to ensure that the grey water or black water doesn't come into the drainage line, and that is something which we'll be working on together for some time, and a little more focus on our lake networks and initiatives like this, the drainage, the city will have not just a decent network for handling high intensity rainfall or urban flooding related issues, but also we will be able to get better and more public spaces in the city in future. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much for inviting me to take part in this program.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rao, for that wonderful keynote. I think it is heartening to see that the city has the right intent and innovation, and it is a matter of coming together to scale now. We will now be launching our working paper titled Reimagining Urban Drainage Systems, Learnings from Nallurhalli Nala Rejuvenation, Bangalore. I would request Nitya Ramesh, Shrikant Vishwanathan, and Shweta Pandey to please join Mr. Rao on stage for the launch of the paper. As Nitya spoke about in her context presentation, we have conducted a pilot of nature-based solutions in Nallurhalli Lake and Whitefield in Bangalore in partnership with MBRDI. Based on our learnings, we have written a working paper identifying systemic barriers to implementing nature-based solutions in Bangalore. The QR displayed on the right of the screen will take you to the download link for the paper. I request Diksha to please. We urge each of you to please read the paper and share your feedback. The link to the feedback form is included at the end of the paper. The QR is also available at the registration desk.